Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Swanson. Um, Great to speak with you all today. Today, I'd like to talk to you all about the changes in the funeral industry. I actually had an opportunity this week to actually sit down and speak with the funeral director, um, and we were actually just going over some different questions and different things about the funeral business. Um, I'm going to go ahead and get started. The first question that I asked her was, do you think the funeral industry has changed at all since you've been in it? And how long have you been in the industry? Her response to that question was most definitely, it has changed in many different ways. She then told me that she was in the business for 6 years, since 2007. I then asked her what did she think of those changes. She, of course, said that there are now women doing a job that men were only allowed to do back in the day. She also said that funerals have completely changed. People are going towards cremation, and the cremation has been taken over the industry, period. Then I asked her what were her thoughts on the changes. She then said that she was very excited that women are actually starting to work in the industry, and she has had many obstacles in the industry, and she is very happy that she's now had able to have an opportunity to work in the funeral industry. I then asked her what were her thoughts on cremation. She told me that cremation was a smart idea for some people, and that coming out of a low income housing, cremation is good for those type of people. Um, but it is really killing the industry for the small funeral home owners. It's really killing the small funeral home owners. They're not able to stand there, keeping their doors open because everyone's wanting to go to cremation and they want their services to be cheaper. So that's one. It's pros and cons for cremation. I then asked her how she felt at the cost of funerals rising. She told me that it's a good and a bad thing, um, because of the simple fact of her coming out of a low income a low income housing. Funerals, people are not able to afford funerals. Um, and then that takes me to another question that I asked her. Um, I asked her about policies, funeral policies, because a lot of people have funeral policies and they get them back. Older people have funeral policies from back in the 60s and the 70s, and those policies, when funerals were costing $1,500 a month, $1,500 for a policy, for a funeral. That's all the funeral cost was back in those days. You have the older people who have those policies, and they're trying to go into the funeral business. Into the funeral to have a funeral, and when they go to have a funeral, the cost of services have gone up to $6,300 for a funeral. So they can't really afford a funeral when they only have a $1,500 policy and they're coming out of a low income uh, neighborhood. So that was another question that I asked her. Then we also got to African American changes in the African American society in the funeral industry. And she said there are many changes in the industry, but the different things were brought into different communities. So, we get all type of stuff now. You can get a service uh, with stepping, people carrying caskets on their shoulder, people actually wearing top hats, people actually stepping, they high stepping, and it's a really big change out there. Um, so people are really going towards these different changes. They're really liking it, and it's really helping the funeral business. Also, it makes people want to have a funeral service because they want Oh, I want my mother to have the shoulder, your casket being carried on their shoulder. I want my mother to have horses and carriages, because people weren't doing that in the 60s and 70s. They were doing it before then. So she actually told me that. Another question I asked her was about retail stores selling caskets. What was her thoughts and opinions about that? She said that it would drive the middlemen out of business, and it actually makes the big man bring his funeral, like the big casket companies, Batesville and Aurora and different companies of that nature. It actually makes him bring his casket prices down. So it actually helps the funeral home to be able to afford these caskets to sell to the consumer. So she was really very happy about the Walmart selling these caskets, which I was totally surprised because I would have thought that she would not have likened the prices of well, Walmart being able to sell these caskets, and they're selling them at a lower cost. So it makes actually helps them with the bigger casket companies that they can purchase those caskets and sell them at the a lower cost. So then I asked her what was her how did where did she see herself in 5 years? She actually told me that she saw herself owning her own funeral home with a crematory and making many changes a lot in the Savannah area. Um, I then also asked her about the funeral policy cost, $1,500, and thinking nothing about it, getting any more policies to cover today's cost. And she was very happy about the changes in funeral services. Um, we actually sat down and we had a great time talking about the funeral business and just going over these questions. She was very appalled, well, not appalled, she was very happy that I actually chose her to go over these questions and about the changes in funeral services. It was great talking with you all. You all have a good one. Thank you.